And Debbie Carreau joins us again, talking about your online profile and how that can affect your ability to gain employment. And so we're going to dig into your online footprint. And first things first, we've been talking about Google and how that is the first point of contact for employers. But how much information? I was surprised at some of the things that you can actually learn about somebody and their software that is used to get a great amount of information.
Yeah, it's amazing what technology can do. The software program that we have right now can pull in probably 2 minutes what would have taken us 1,200 man-hours just a year ago. So
wow.
Everything from employment history to all your social media profiles to who your connections are, to bankruptcies, to court documents, to personality profiles. So it's amazing what we can do with information that we find online.
Okay, so you want to be telling the right story and building your personal brand correctly. So how do we create an online footprint that is desirable?
So the first thing is be intentional and be strategic about it. Think about it as an extension or a supplement to your resume. So your resume tells a really sort of very brief story about you, but use social media platforms to figure out how do you expand that story and how do you position yourself in a way that's going to be positive to prospective employers.
Okay, and when it comes to LinkedIn, LinkedIn is sort of the primary place, but you said LinkedIn is on the decline?
It is on the decline because what's happening is we're even finding about 60% of recruiters are now using using Facebook as a tool to be able to look at candidates and find out more than just their online resume, so to speak, to find out about the candidate.
Okay, and you can actually stack your social media to create a more positive impression, right? So you can include content that might sway an opinion one way or another.
Absolutely, and Twitter's a great tool for that, especially if you're in an industry where being a thought leader is helpful. Twitter, you can share your opinion, you can make comments on existing news stories, and you can really put something out there that positions you well for interviews and as a prospective candidate for a job.
Okay, and if I'm looking to clean up my online footprint, how do I do that? Where do I start?
Yeah. So the very first thing I encourage everyone to do, even if you're not looking for a job, is put a Google alert on yourself.
Yes.
So every time something comes up online about you, you get a notification, and you can decide, is it positive, is it negative?
Right.
If there's stuff on there that's unflattering, the first thing I would do is, if it's something like Facebook, you can actually untag yourself, and it's pretty easy. You actually just go untag,
yeah.
Or you contact the source. Some of the other ways to do it, if it really is tough and you can't get it offline, is to put more and more positive content ahead of it. So things like Twitter, Google+, those things that are real-time feeds will actually bump unflattering information further down your profile. And so maybe on the first 3 or 5 pages, there's nothing you don't want people to see because you've intentionally put positive content. It's further down, and most people aren't going to look onto page 9, 10, or even 12 of your Google search.
Right, okay. And what if I don't have a significant online profile? Should I create one for myself?
I always encourage people to do that because if there's nothing out there about you, that in itself poses some questions. Not necessarily bad, but an interview might say, does this person even exist if they change their name? So if you want a minimal profile, I encourage you to at least have a professional LinkedIn page with a professional headshot and information that's aligned with your resume. Make sure it's not conflicting information. And then you can either have no other social media profile at all, or you can keep them private.
Okay, and let's say I do have a Facebook that is visible, or other social media that is visible, and I have sort of social photos of family, photos of friends. Is that looked at it in a certain light?
You know what? That's not a bad thing at all. I mean, the reality is more and more we're sort of a whole person. So we approach it even from a business perspective to understand that people do have a life outside of work, and sometimes we'd like to know what people are going to be like that we're working with. The average person spends more than half their waking hours with their coworkers at work or returning messages and commuting. So the reality is it's more and more important to know the whole person.
Okay. Great tips. Thank you for sharing this with us, and hopefully that is beneficial for you if you're creating an online profile, or maybe you need to take some things down. And I certainly will be going into my LinkedIn to do some updates. We were talking about that offline as well.